Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Delta EE webinar. Today, we are going to talk about the topic of home energy management, and we are going to show you some research that we are just about to publish for our subscribers. In today's discussion, I will be joined by my colleagues Alex, Ricardo, and Sushang, who have been working on these topics for the past few months. Hi, everyone. Hi, Alex. Hi, Ricardo. Hi, Sushang.
Hello.
Hi there. Welcome, everyone.
I hope everyone is well, and I hope everyone is well on your side as well, who is listening. Just to let you know, for the webinar, the only questions that we usually get are can we get the slides? So the answer is yes. You will automatically get the PDF version of this deck of slides after the webinar. And you can ask questions. So you can see on the software of GoToWebinar, there is a small box with called questions, actually. And feel free to comment on what we say, to ask us questions. We might answer it to you directly by writing. We might answer your questions by during the webinar. And we might even come back to you afterwards if we haven't had time to answer your questions. So do not hesitate to ask some. In terms of the agenda for today, we hope to finish by 45 past at the latest, even earlier if we can. But we'll spend about 10 minutes talking about the fundamentals of home energy management. And basically, we realized that there is lots of definitions on home energy management, and we decided to go for one definition, which hopefully everyone agrees on. But at least we will use the definition for the rest of our analysis on this topic. So we'll share with you how we are thinking about this, the frameworks, etc. Then we are going to talk about the European market for home energy management. So where we are today, where we see the future going, the trends, the barriers, etc. We will have a short discussion on the issue of interoperability. As if you are in the market, you're probably aware that connecting different appliances together is an issue. And finally, we will talk about some of the interesting business models that we have looked at during our research for home energy management, and what are the evolutions of these business models, how this might change in the future. So, with no further ado, I will hand over to my colleague Sushang, who will tell you a bit more on how we characterize, how we define home energy management today.
Yeah, thanks, Arthur. I think you're right talking about that. There is really a lack of a very clear definition of HEM today in the industry. It sounds like a very easy question, but if you ask different people, you have really different answers. And perhaps many different propositions will all claim that they are HEM. So it's actually a very interesting and important question to start with, to differentiate HEM with other residential energy control offerings. So on the slide, we're going to show a simplified diagram to define HEM. Today, we have all those electrical loads in all the households, and on the top of that, you will have your electricity coming from the grid or from the solar panel for self-consumption. To manage them, then, there comes the intelligence of the HEM system, which is the orange box here, that sits in the central of this diagram. It could be a gateway installed at home, and it could also be 100% cloud-based to control all your connected products. And all these optimization will be incorporating different data sources from either your appliances or from the end users. I think on the next slide, we have a more complex diagram to visualize how different appliances are being managed. And one of the key drivers of HEM today is actually the uptake of some new energy products in Europe, such as battery storage, heat pumps, EVs and EV chargers, etc. These appliances can be all managed by a HEM system with this intelligence. You might notice that we're not showing sort of the white goods or smaller items such as bulbs or kettles, those stuffs in this diagram, because those loads are usually representing a lower level of energy consumption and they are not bringing enough financial potentials. Therefore, they're not a main focus in the market today, and they're not a focus for us as well. So moving on to the next slide, here comes our definition. What we call HEM is actually a system that autonomously monitors, controls, and optimizes the energy flows within the home. Its main purpose is to minimize customers' energy costs while meeting their preferences, like for the comfort, for their habit of using their EVs, for their carbon emissions, etc. So that means it should give priority to create values inside the home, such as self-consumption, such as time of use tariff optimization, but it can also interact with wider system, like providing services to the energy community or the grid system. Under this definition, let's have a look at what propositions are not HEM, which is never clear in the industry before, I think. A home climate control, such as a smart thermostat, is not HEM because it just optimizes the heating consumption for the comfort purpose rather than managing the energy flows. The systems that I think is the next box controls multiple appliances, but relying on customers' manual input or some sort of the programming is also not HEM because it's not autonomous. And autonomous is really an important characteristic for HEM systems. And
so
finally,
what you are saying here is that, let's say, a dynamic tariff where the customer has to manually change, let's say, the temperature for its heat pump, then that's not counted as a home energy management system, unless it's doing that autonomously, right?
No, definitely not. I think, for example, in the Nordics, dynamic tariffs are really common today, and a lot of customers are adjusting their energy use just based on the information they get for the next day's tariff. And that behavioral changes is not really home energy management. It's not an optimization automatically. So yeah, it's not HEM. And finally, we have this pure flexibility is also not HEM because it doesn't share values directly with the households in its proposition. And remember that a HEM should prioritize benefits for households. Otherwise, it might be just flexibility, it might be VPP, it might be energy community, but not HEM. A HEM should prioritize the values or the benefits for the housekeepers. Now, given this definition of HEM, we have developed a framework at Delta E to classify all those propositions in the market today, which are close to HEM. And the criteria we use to assess those solutions are the number of assets they are managing and the use cases they can provide. On the bottom left, if the solution only manage one type of appliance with one use case, it's just a basic appliance optimization. And from the left to the right hand, when the solution explores more use cases to access more values from the home or even the grid value streams, it becomes more advanced. And from the bottom to the top, if the solution can coordinate multiple appliances, and then it becomes a proper HEM. Similarly, if the HEM system becomes exploring more different use cases, it becomes more advanced. And I think we're showing some examples here to explain different types of solutions. Yes, for example, if a hot water tank is combined with the optimization of dynamic tariffs, it will be a basic appliance optimization. If you are controlling several assets like a hot water tank, a heat pump, or EV charger, to play around several home use cases like the dynamic tariffs, the self-consumptions, it becomes an intermediate HEM. I'm not going through all the details for the other propositions, but ultimately, for an advanced HEM, it should be managing multiple assets like heat pumps, EVs, batteries, and provide several use cases across home level and the system level to access different value streams like time of use tariff, self-consumptions, flexibility, etc.
We have one question, Sushang, from Ines, asking to give examples of what we understand by home values. Can you explain to us, Sushang, what we mean and what are the home values that we cover?
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be easier if you go back to the last slide where we have 3 circles about the home level, the system level, and the community level. So yeah, those are a very rough definition of different value streams, but actually there are many use cases under each level. So for home values, usually it's about managing the optimizing the self-consumption. It's about shifting your load to benefit from your dynamic tariffs, and also in some countries there will be a capacity charge optimization. And for the other 2 circles, there will be different use cases for the system.
We also have a question on why PV is an asset, and actually we thought a lot about this, but basically in our definition of HEM we talk about everything that can be controlled and optimized. PV actually is just an input to the home, which cannot really be controlled. So it's just optimizing as much as we can the use of either the PV electricity that we get or the dynamic tariffs that we get. So that's why we don't consider PV on its own as just an asset.
Yeah, it's a use case of self-consumption rather than an asset itself to be managed.
We have another question before we go on to the next slides. What's the difference between a HEM and a building energy management? Well, I think the answer is in the words. So the HEM focuses on the home, and building energy management focuses on industrial or commercial buildings, which is a very different solution, often much more tailored to the building and involving a lot more loads like all the lights, the lifts, etc. So these are very different solutions, very different value streams, and often the companies offering this are quite different from the companies focusing on the home.
Yeah. All right. More concretely, we analyzed about more than 80 HEM or appliance optimization propositions in the European markets. And here is the company landscape. We're not showing all of them here, but don't worry. What I can tell you is that there are companies falling in each category. Not everyone is advanced, and in fact, it's much easier today for some companies to start offering 1 or 2 use cases around one type of appliances. Imagine if you are a manufacturer, it's much easier to start with your own heat pump, your hot water tank, or your EV charger. But eventually, what we think and also what we're observing is that all the propositions are evolving from the bottom left to the top right, and following our framework of HEM propositions, because more advanced solutions will be able to access more values, more financial values, and also system values. But again, it's good to include all of these use cases in the capability portfolio, but what to offer to end users really depend on the different market conditions, the regulations, and openness of the different value streams, and also what type of assets does your customer have. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all for the HEM fundamentals. If you are interested in more details about all those 80 companies that I was talking about, please do reach out to us. We have created a database to assess their propositions and basically their market positions here. Yeah, otherwise I'll hand over back to you, Arthur.
Thank you, Sushang. We had a question actually on the the definition of HEM, of delta EE, and the definition in the industry. Actually, what we found is that the industry has lots of different definitions, and that there was a need to define home energy management in a more structured way. So feel free to not use our definition of HEM, but we feel that's probably the best one we can offer to the market today, so that it helps you understand who is offering what, whether we consider that as a home energy management or not, and basically benchmarking the marketing aspect of things versus the reality of what companies actually offer to the market. For the next session, we'll talk about the home energy management market in Europe, and I will hand over to my colleague Ricardo, who will talk to you about this.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's after Soshang's definition of or of what is the framework we use to define HEM within Delta, then we were able to create this view and this way to present data of how we have how we see the market until now and how we're gonna see it until 2030. So yeah, for example, in the last year, the market grew twice. Yeah, that's between appliance optimization sales and home energy management sales. Yeah, of course, at the moment, HEM is smaller than appliance optimization, but we expect this to keep growing and to the more companies are offering more sophisticated systems and they develop the homeowner or the customer have more loads, electrical loads at home, and they will integrate them more and the market will evolve, then we can clearly see an evolution of the market in the share for HEM. And then comparing how we see the market for today until 2030, we clearly see an acceleration in the upcoming years and to reach, yeah, basically grow over 6 times from today until 2030. And just to mention before, also in the report will be we have a year-by-year forecast from 2018 until 2030. And yes, here we can see a really interesting map. This is the map of basically the present analysis of how we see the market today in Europe. The darker the orange is how we have defined a market more attractive at the moment. And this is a combination of qualitative and quantitative data. Like we include how the market is open for this to access this value stream that Soshang mentioned before. How large is the install base of electrical loads? Yeah, regulatory context and what the number of players active in each country and so on. So it's just a very interesting picture at the moment, but this is clearly a way that is not going to be like this in the next 10 years. This is clearly going to evolve. We expect a few markets to become stronger. Example from France, Italy, Spain, that they will mature more in the upcoming years. But yeah, this is an interesting part. Yes, as Soshang mentioned, we have at the moment right now an active database for 80 players, and there's a lot happening in the market, and around half of them they're offering a HEM solution. But yeah, we can see that the majority is appliance optimization, since it's the easiest way to access at the moment. And yeah, in this part, we have some samples of what you're gonna see exactly in the report. So we have analyzed country by country, and yeah, for example, in the previous slide, you see a whole Europe, but that's the point we reach when we have gone through in detail by country. Our subscribers will be able to access this analysis where we're covering the rating we are given for each of the use case. How do we see it in the next, let's say, 5 years? The main barriers and drivers at the moment on each country. How we see the policy evolve. Also, we will you're able to see a detailed forecast for the systems of all appliance optimization and HEM until 2030, and the current install base of each the relevant loads we have mentioned before, as well as a really interested analysis of why do we see this market going in this direction, what is the driver, and yeah, why do we see it as an opportunity. And yeah, so it's accompanying this report is going to come also with a database that subscribers will be able to access. It's more in detail database, so where subscribers can basically select the view and filter by country, by year, or even by the type of system. And then also there's a really interesting database of the electrical loads relevant to HEM by each country. So it's basically the same principle, and this is very I think this is very useful, and this is a really big part of our analysis, because that's how we have based our forecast by talking to the industry. It's a combination basically top bottom and bottom up, and we have based this on how to see the trend of each technology, each policy, each country, and so on. So
thank you, Ricardo. We are getting lots of questions actually from people in this webinar. And sorry if we can't answer everything. We are getting questions on why certain countries are interesting and what are driving the markets. Basically, it's the answers will be all in the report, and we'll be explaining why each market is developing the way we think it will develop. You have to know that this is one view today based on the regulations, on the drivers, on the customer research that we have done, etc. It's very likely that actually the market will accelerate even further as we advance in the energy transition. So everything we have right now is the best view that we can give to them, but in the future it might increase as well. There are questions on the companies and why some of them are not in our framework. The answer is that actually we can't put everything in one slide, but all the companies that we have identified across Europe should be in our database and in our framework. And this is available to our subscribers and everyone who has the report. If we are missing some companies, we will gradually add them to the framework and the database. So no worries if there is something missing. Great. Well, thanks, Ricardo. In terms of the interoperability issues, so we have done a study on this last year, actually, and we are probably going to update this as the market develops. But there is a major barrier for this market to develop, and that is the compatibility between different appliances to work with each other and to be combined with one HEM provider which can control and get data from all these appliances. So across Europe, the market for heat pumps, EV charger, PV inverters and batteries is growing very fast, for some faster than others. For heat pumps, there are tens, if not 100 manufacturers across Europe, between air to water, air to air conditioning, even other types of electric LED heating. For EV charge points, with the massive growth that we are seeing across Europe, there are hundreds of companies active in the market, which means as many manufacturers, as many protocols in order to control the charge points and the load for the car. And yeah, tens, if not hundreds of manufacturers of PV inverters and batteries. So all of this combined means that you have hundreds of thousands of combinations between different loads in the home. And if you are providing home energy management, you are wondering, how can I control the loads of any given customer? Which brands of these products are most likely to be in the homes? And can I do anything to make these products work together? So this is a really, really difficult question. The first way we are trying to answer it is to look at which products customers have in which combination of products customers have in their homes. So as part of the databases, we are trying to estimate how many homes will have a PV plus a battery, how many homes will have a battery, a heat pump, and an EV charge point, etc. And we will try to estimate, the numbers towards that. And then within our research specializing in each of these areas, we have the market shares or the high-level market shares of the different manufacturers, which helps you basically better understand the opportunities to partner with this company or to share an API with this company and help you better enable home energy management. So that's given that's a key issue, that's really important to understand what's in the market. But basically, the majority of the issue we see is that when you see boards of companies, let's say an EV charge point or heat pump manufacturer, talking about interoperability and how the product might work with other products, most of the time the discussion is about the data and whether we want to open up to other companies. In the majority of cases, companies don't understand the opportunity, don't understand the market very well, and they'd rather go for a defensive move of closing their protocols and only allowing perhaps a few companies to access their data and protocols through a partnership. The risk we see is that everyone wants to be in control, everyone wants to get the data from everyone else, but not the opposite way. And that's slowing down the market developments. There are a few HEM companies who focus on integrating the APIs of everyone. There are electric switchboard companies who just turn on and off some appliances, so that's not ideal. And there are other types of solutions being developed in the market, but basically we are following the market for what could happen in the future for standardization or association, which might help get this industry together to optimize and have a smoother integration of all products in the home. So that's today, I think, in my view, is the biggest challenge for the home energy management market, but hopefully tech companies will tackle this challenge in the coming years. The final part of our webinar will be looking at the business models in home energy management. I see a lot of questions actually coming in on the protocols for EE-bus and things like that. So I'll try to answer them by writing if we can. But in the meantime, I will hand over to Alex, who will talk to you about the interesting HEM business models.
Thanks, Arthur. Yeah, so we decided to look a lot into business models during this research. And one of the key questions that we receive from our subscribers is who is the HEM customer? Who is it now? Who is it going to be in the next 10, 30 years? And one of the key findings actually of our research now was that despite the increasing uptake of electric loads such as heat pumps, electric vehicles, as we just discussed, while most European households are still not really aware of HEM. And this was highlighted by providers and installers, but we also did a customer survey. And the survey showed that in all countries, a minority of customers know a company offering HEM. So who is the HEM customer? Well, there are slight differences from one country to another, but what we're seeing now is that the typical HEM customer is tech savvy, energy aware, and higher income. So if you click, yeah, so that's our current market position. A very large part of the market is also made of customers who are going to acquire a HEM system, which is embedded in an appliance. So for instance, someone acquiring an EV charge point or a battery, and together with that product, they will have some kind of HEM solution. That's very typical. And that makes HEM a push market. So basically, solution providers are going to push their HEM solutions towards house owners willing to install a solar PV system or a charge point or a battery. And the customer segment of large load owners is very likely to acquire a system when purchasing their new appliances at the moment. But also what we think is that customer needs will evolve. As you can see, the customer value are changing over time. And as a consequence of that, we can expect the typical customer profile to change as well. For instance, the environmental drivers are becoming more and more important. And we had several conversations with providers telling us that they see older households becoming increasingly interested in home energy management. We also think that the uptake of heat pump across Europe is particularly important, will drive the uptake of home energy management and appliance optimization system in the next 10 years. So as I just explained, the HEM market is not really established yet. And the consequence of that is that there are a variety of business models and charging models currently in Europe. But overall, what we see is that since people will acquire their HEM system in majority with an appliance, HEM is not really monetized yet in Europe. So the most common model that we see in terms of scale, so commercial scale in terms of sales, remains the one that we see on the left of this chart, where the home energy management system is going to be embedded in the appliances, as I just described. So the end user purchased the appliance and the HEMS is offered with it. The HEM is not the prime driver of the purchase. And that's a problem because it means that the running costs of ham are not really covered for the providers. So homeowners are not willing to invest specifically in ham in that context. They are rather looking for an integrator, no-brainer solution, and they feel like in that configuration it's offered for free for them, since the cost is included in the price of a larger proposition. So as the market evolve, what we expect is actually a provider to move towards the right, where propositions include some kind of way to tie the end user. So for example, in an energy supply contract, in a leasing contract, and having this recurring fee will enable the provider to cover the running cost of ham. But on top of that, it also enables providers to maintain a relationship with the customer. And this is really interesting for providers because it drives indirect values, upselling potential, can enable utilities to engage their customers better and lower their churn rates. And we see a few offers on the market already doing this. I think some of the typical examples are Sonnen and Lichtblick in Germany. So in both cases, they actually have a system with a battery, solar PV, and on top of that, they provide a kind of tariff. Another very interesting example is Tiber, which offers subscription to its customer on top of offering products that can be integrated in the ham ecosystem. Who brings ham to market? That's also a question that we receive a lot from subscribers. So the local aspect of home energy management, the fact that it's very country dependent, make installers, house builders, and other local actors very well positioned to develop the right business model for their customers. So what we see right now is that B2B2C providers are very well positioned to achieve scale in Europe. So right now what we're seeing is that a large majority of the market is going through the installer channel. So for example, SMAPI is an EV charge point manufacturer, and the way that they access the market is via the charge point installer chain. And we see similar things with PV installer being quite involved and targeted by ham solutions manufacturers. Utilities, which have an ongoing relationship with end user, are very well positioned as well to generate value out of hams, for instance, by bundling tariff and recurring fee. And they're also a very interesting partner to tap into electricity market values. So we're seeing a lot of ham solution manufacturer going in that direction. I put the example of Kiwi Grids, but we could also talk about Tico, we could talk about Gridex and many others. The house builders segment is very interesting. It's still very small in terms of scale, but it's quite interesting for ham to integrate hams in new builds as premium feature. And we see a few companies really specializing in this segment. So that's the case of Wonderwall in the UK. And then we would have product OEMs such as Gridex going through HVAC manufacturer, for example, and also various examples of direct to customers. So I'll just finish with one other question that we receive a lot. Who will be the best place to face the customer in the end? So what we've heard a lot is that energy suppliers are the most willing to become the leader of the ham ecosystem because this would enable them to increase their customer stickiness and develop cross-selling opportunities. And they've been investing a lot in the interoperability space. So we've seen companies like E.ON, ENGIE, Centrica really investing in ham experts such as Gridex or GreenCom Networks and many others. And actually, this view is confirmed by our latest customer survey that showed that 2/3 of the respondents see the energy suppliers as being the most likely players to provide hams in the future.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you everyone for the many questions. I don't think we've ever gotten that many questions in a webinar, and hopefully we try to answer all the questions. there are a few questions on the interoperability issues, the role of the GAFAM, the role of governments, regulations, and things like that. These are questions we are trying to answer in the interoperability report. But obviously, this is a major question, and it's different to it's difficult to answer all these questions even in a study, because it relies a lot on future lobbying, on future alliances, and things like that. So it's something to keep an eye on, and that's what we'll do in the future. So just to, before we finish the webinar, just to briefly mention what's available from Delta EE on the topic of home energy management. There are two things we're doing. The first one is qualitative-led studies, and we have done a few, or are about to publish a few. So there is the fundamentals of home energy management, which is already available to our subscribers. The interoperability report, which we try to update every year or two. The new reports, one of the new reports we're going to publish is around what Alex just explained around the innovative business models. And Alex has also done something on the role of integrators in home energy management. So these are the qualitative-led studies that are or will be available very shortly. We have also a lot of data-led studies looking at the European or the markets, the European market status or the country-by-country analysis. We provide forecasts to home energy management and their and appliance optimization going forward. As Sushang mentioned, we have this actors info base where we track who is doing what and the newcomers in the market, and try to compare the companies across Europe. We have data looking at electric loads such as PV, batteries, electric heating, etc. And the data going forward in terms of what we think will be sold annually in terms of that. We also have data on customers, so we are interrogating customers on their preferences in terms of will they want to buy a home energy management system in the future, what kind of electrical loads they have in their homes, this sort of stuff. All of this is or will be available shortly to our clients. And within this HEM package, which we are growing in terms of amount of resource we're spending, there are other studies which we think might be interesting for the future. There were questions on regulations, where one of the topics we might look at in the future is new built regulations and how this might drive home energy management across Europe. There are questions around the entry point in the home. So we mentioned interoperability, but actually who might be the one product that leads the HEM discussion. Some people in the questions have asked about smart charging or smart batteries. Well, this could well be one of the entry points in the home. So again, that's we could do an analysis on what we think will happen in this. More details on the solar PV markets and the topic of self-consumption, either individual or collective, which is growing in a lot of countries and which might be an interesting angle for HEM. We are actually going to do more on dynamic electricity tariff, because this is a big question. And as you know, in the Nordics, there are a lot of these. In the UK, in Germany, there are some now. In France, there's one or two. So what will be the impact of this, and what are the specificities of dynamic tariffs on home energy management? There is obviously the role of energy communities within this, while some social landlords try to optimize energy consumption and generation within an area of a city. What about the role of HEM in order to better optimize the energy consumption within this? There could be questions around the battle between manufacturers, electricity OEMs, energy suppliers, integrators, and who are most likely to win in which countries. Again, don't hesitate to suggest questions like this in the question box or by email later on, but these are the questions that we might look at in the future for the HEM research. And we have had a lot of questions on how to access these studies and data. Basically, it's today located in different services in Delta EE. Most of the data and research is located in our Connect Home service. And if you subscribe today, you will have access to a lot of this information. What Alex has talked about, the business models for HEM, is available in the New Energy Business Model Service. So anyone subscribing to this will have access to the reports. And the other way to access that would be to get our home energy management package, which will include reports on the European markets, the report with the fundamentals explaining our definition and the framework, the interoperability status across Europe, and also a few databases which are really important to better understand the market. So the HEM sales and forecasts, the electric load sales and forecasts, the HEM competitor info base, and the customer survey which we're about to publish. So if you're interested in accessing these materials, feel free to contact us directly. And otherwise, yeah, we'll be in touch anyway to continue having these discussions, because HEM is such an important topic that we have to continue looking for information. We have to share. We have to understand what's happening. The energy transition is really at a tipping point where everything will be accelerating, and having more than 80 companies offering HEM today is a sign of a bright future for this market. And we really believe that this will help tackle carbon emissions within buildings. So hopefully this is a good business for everyone to move into, or to accelerate into, and we'll provide lots of information to help you be more successful at this. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the webinar. As I said before, we will share the PDF slides with you after that. If you want to know more about the reports, feel free to contact us. And yeah, we might get in touch if we haven't answered your questions in the questions box today. But yeah, thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Sushang. Thank you, Ricardo, for your time. And see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.